Hi, my name is Courtney Terry, and this is Arts Alive. My guest today is Denny Patella, who will be participating in the Arts Harvest Studio Tour, which is coming up the first 2 weekends in October. Dates I don't have off the top of my head, but it's the first 2 weekends in October. And so you are a photographer, and is this your first time doing the Arts Harvest Tour?
This is.
Oh, exciting. Mm-hmm. And what has been, I guess, so we'll just go over everything. It's like, okay. How did you get started in photography?
Well, my mother gave me a camera sometime over 50 years ago. And after a while, I found an interest in photography. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing it for over 50 years.
And you, given the time period that you have been doing photography, would you, so you started with the physical film and the...
I had a darkroom for 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now it's more digital, or?
I have no more darkroom.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I did take a photography class in high school, and I feel like the darkroom was one of my, like the special parts about it. Going in there, smelling the chemicals.
Yeah, it's kind of magic. You put something in a tray of water, and all of a sudden,
shows up,
there it is.
Right?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
But then I would also say, modern photography has its benefits as well, which is just, I can see, just looking at this photo of the beach that's behind us, like, I love how it captures just the tiniest details and, like, the changes in the light, especially with the way on that picture, particularly the way the sand is. Do you... Is it you just kind of enjoy, wandering around and you have your camera with you, or do you... When you're seeking inspiration, do you go out for it, or is it just kind of a happenstance?
Well, I sort of think you have to take the inspiration with you. When it's to me, it feels like a kind of a receptiveness. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it just isn't there. I just walk around with the camera and, but sometimes, like with this one, an image just is sort of there all of a sudden. And what was there all of a sudden for me initially was this little line of foam and this little line of clouds coming down. And I saw that. I did black and white for decades. And so my eye tends to go to the white right away. And so I just framed an image around that.
Oh, that's
so.
And there's so many other things that are going on with that. So, and then on the other hand, we have like this kind of more close-up detail. Do you find you have a preference for, like the landscape photos or the details?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, I love detail, but, it can't be just detail for detail. It's got to be detail that sort of has some kind of a shape. And so this was the Air Museum some years ago. And this was a similar one. I was walking around with a group, and I walked at this spot, and I saw the wing, and I saw the reflections of the color, the windows on the floor, and of course, hovering behind it all in the background is the spruce goose, but all you see is a little gray between the wings in the upper right corner. And so that was an image that I saw pretty quickly. And so it was basically a quick stop and make sure the framing was right and push the button and then go catch up with the others. So, and it's cool when it works that way, when the image just finds me so emphatically that there's not much for me to do. Just make sure it's framed properly. And
take the picture.
Yeah.
And did you do any official study of photography classes or anything? No. It's just always been a passion project for you?
Yeah, it's just been something I did. I've always had an interest in arts, and initially it was music, and I started playing music when I was in probably early grade school. And I started because it just, and the classical music that I first heard just moved me in a certain way. And then the same thing happens with photography, especially when there's an image that just just grabs me, and I can tell everything starts to tingle in a funny way. And so, anyway.
And that, so do you have a home studio, or did you have to get something set up for the Arts Harvest tour? And
well, my studio is an upstairs bedroom.
Okay.
It's not very big. It's a little bit bigger than the table, and I've got a computer and I've got a printer. But then I do music up there, so I've got a music stand and a few other things. So my home is not accessible. And there's lots of steps to get to what would be called my studio, but it's just a cluttered bedroom, really.
So where will you be showing your art for the?
I'll be at 3rd Street in the Old Elks.
Oh, cool.
You know, above the, across from Nick's Italian Cafe, which is a beautiful setting. And
yes. Yeah. Well, and that space has been empty, so I'm glad that they've been using it for that.
Actually, though, it's hosted artists during Art Harvest for a number of years.
Great.
So.
And then so it'll be you and then a few other artists.
Yeah, there'll be 5 or 6 or 7. I'm not sure how many.
Any other photographers in the room?
Not that I know of. I believe there is at least one other photographer showing in Art Harvest. I haven't met the person, and so I don't know if there is going to be it's going to be open for drop-in visitors on weekends in September.
Oh, great.
And anyone who participates in Art Harvest who wants to can put 1 or 2 pieces in there. And so it would be a way to come up, see this beautiful space, up in the 2nd floor, and see a little bit of what people are showing this year.
Like a sampling.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that having all of the artists kind of in one accessible place too, because it's fun to go.
Yeah.
I've done Art Harvest before and going out and visiting the tours, but also, it really lends itself to being more accessible and just kind of more of a destination. That's amazing. And you mentioned, so you're also a musician too?
Yeah, just I don't play in a group. But once in a while, I'll sit on 3rd Street and fiddle, and just for the heck of it, but not so often. So, yeah. And
you had kind of mentioned a little bit before about growing up, kind of feeling. Do you feel a connection between music and photography in terms of like they're both arts that you do and enjoy and?
Well. Yeah, I suppose if I thought hard enough about it, I could find more. But, I mean, my work was in mental health. And I will say that there were times in my practice when, if I was working with a group, it would come to me something about a quartet or a small chamber orchestra, as if somehow the elements in the group reminded me of players coming together. And I think that if it works well, the elements do come together, whether it's in an orchestra or in a group. Or sometimes with a person individually, an image would come to mind, and not one that I would create, one that sort of something in me would create, and so I thought that was interesting. I don't know what to make of it, but I was aware of it, and I enjoyed it when it happened. Yeah,
well, and kind of just being able to spot those kind of dynamics in a totally different situation.
Yeah.
How has your photography, so working as a mental health professional, has that been something of an outlet for you on some of those rougher days, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, part of being able to work in that field is learning how to handle the days when you bring something home. Not that it's unusual or a bad thing, but so no, probably music would be closer to that, because it's hard for me to play music without being completely involved in the moment in it, and there's just not room for anything else. So that's relaxing. So.
And I'm curious. So, was this in Oregon? So the photo behind us, is that an Oregon coast photo?
Yeah, this is someplace probably near Nescoin.
Okay.
Most of the photographs I'm showing will be shot within 40 or 50 miles of McMinnville.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And is that like you have that's where you like to travel around the most, get the most? Have you done a lot of travels in terms of your photography?
Well, yeah, I take the camera with me.
Oh, sure.
I mean, there's one image I made in Copenhagen earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
And there's one image from Alaska, only because I've always loved it, and so I'm going to show it here. Okay. But most of them are, within 40 or 50 miles, I can get there in a day trip, and so that's why 40 or 50 miles.
Yeah, Yeah, well, and just all that's available out there. I just went to Silver Falls State Park this weekend,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's so much
Yeah.
beauty that's just so close by.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I don't think that I don't feel like I have to go to a place that's, I mean, I'll say, well, someone responded that I said I was going to a national park, and they said, that'd be a great place to photograph. You know, I think you take a sort of an attitude or a receptiveness with you. Mm-hmm. And if I'm lucky, I can make great photographs in a place on the beach I've been 5 or 10 times before. And in fact, often that's exactly what happens. A certain familiarity, and I begin seeing things in a different way, or maybe just seeing what was there that I couldn't see before. So that's one of the things I enjoy about photography, is seeing things that I couldn't see before, and hopefully having a way to share that with somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be a seashell sitting in the sand, but it's, you know.
Well, and I love that idea that photography lets you kind of look at something that you may see every day all the time, but yeah, just the way you frame it or the way that the camera is can change it completely. You know, talking about, you know, the picture of from the Evergreen Aviation Museum, you know, it's right there. Folks are there all the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, just the noticing, the stepping behind the wing and looking up and getting to see all those details.
Yeah, yeah. If you take that one down, the one underneath it is a scene I walk by. Yeah, it's mounted just like that.
Oh!
This is
oh my goodness.
This is a forest scene in a park that in Anchorage that we walked in every day for years, and I visited those 2 trees on that walk every day, and I photographed it in all seasons, and that was the one that stayed with me, and I came to think of these trees as people, and so I thought of those as an old couple in the woods. And that's what I titled it, Old Couple Dancing in the Woods. Because that's what those trees made me think about.
I can absolutely see it.
Yeah, so that to me is, you know, going back over and over and over to a place. And just, I don't know what happens, but sometimes something like that happens. And then I feel really quite gratified.
Well, and we had mentioned, so would you... like most of your photography, what you would say is black and white for the most part?
It was all black and white until I got a digital camera, you know, 15 or 18 years ago. And then it was all color. And in the past 4 or 5 years, I've been doing both. And I think probably in this show, a little more than half of the pieces I'm showing are black and white. So,
well, and I mean, that's what I can't, like, I mean, one of the things I love this photo is that you know that there's so much more color, and instead of seeing all the different aspects of color, you're just seeing like the I love it just because it looks like there's, you know, relatively simple in terms of colors, but the more you look at it, the more complicated it looks, and all the shading and the light and all of that.
It makes me think of an etching. And a lot of the work, because I spent so much time with a friend who was a painter and have looked at art, painting for so long, that's often what moves me about a scene. It'll remind me of something. There's another one here that made me think of a French painting, a French painter. I can't remember the word, and it was right in Joe Dancer Park. And so I love finding images right around town that I can say, look, this is where we live.
Yes. Well, it's, I mean, Anchorage, still stunning, but I do feel a little bit like that is a similar picture you could find just in one of our local parks around here.
Yeah, and I love photographing forests. A number of the photographs are forests.
Oh, that's
you know.
So if anyone was interested, so they can see your art at the Art Harvest Festival, which is happening the first 2 weekends in October.
That's right. That's right.
And if folks are interested in purchasing a ticket to be able to go and see, they can get the ticket. Well, I guess it's a button or a pass.
Yeah, it's a button. And I think there'll be people in the building who will be selling them.
Good.
And I'm, you know, this is my first rodeo, and so I'm not quite sure how everything works. But yeah, I hope people do. Will come by and say hi and talk to me and.
Yes.
You know,
well, and so on the second floor of the Elks building.
Second floor in the ballroom. I'll be in the ballroom in the back.
Oh, how fancy. Okay.
But the whole building inside, the whole apartment is just a wonderful. It's worth it just to go up there and see what's up there.
Yes.
It's, you know, it was the Elks Club in 1900, and it looks the same way it did then.
Okay, that's really cool. I was gonna say, I don't think I've ever been in that building, so
it's really cool.
it'll be a good opportunity.
Yeah.
But wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
Denny, thank you so much for the time today and showing us your art. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to coming by and seeing it during
Good.
the Art Harvest
Good.
trip.
I hope you do.
And yeah, thank you again for your time.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
This is Courtney Terry, and this has been Arts Alive.